In a world where magic is everything, your entire social status depends on how good you are at waving a wand. But deep in the forest, completely clueless about society's obsession with spells, lives Mash. Instead of practicing magic, he's been hitting the gym so hard he's basically a human tank. When the outside world finally discovers his little secret, he's forced to enroll in a prestigious magic school. Now, Mash has one mission: survive and dominate the competition, all while keeping the tiny detail that he can't use magic under wraps. In the magic realm, magic isn't just a tool, it's life itself. Everyone uses it for everything, from lighting candles to carrying groceries. Your magic power determines your status, your privilege, and, frankly, whether society even acknowledges you. But deep in the forest, far from the world of spells and enchantments, lives someone who completely breaks the mold. Mash Burndead spends his days pumping iron and indulging in his true passion, cream puffs. He lives with his adoptive father, Regrub, a man old enough to have mastered the art of ignoring nonsense. Their peaceful existence, however, is frequently disrupted by Mash's questionable relationship with doors. One day, after finishing his workout, Mash strolls inside and accidentally rips the door off its hinges. When Regro freaks out, Mash shrugs and says he couldn't remember whether to push or pull. Things only get worse when he tries to fix it by slamming it back into place until it shatters. After some yelling, Mash is reminded to stay away from the city, a warning he immediately ignores. The city is a spectacle. People are using magic for even the most mundane tasks, and Mash, being the only guy relying solely on raw muscle, sticks out like a sore thumb. When he finally reaches a bakery and orders 7 cream puffs, his excitement gets the better of him. He accidentally crushes his coins. He quickly bends them back into shape, but the shopkeeper, though visibly shaken, still makes the sale. Just as Mash is about to leave, a gust of wind knocks back his hood, revealing his face to the crowd. The city freezes. The problem? He doesn't have a magic mark. In this world, that's basically the equivalent of walking around without a face. Meanwhile, Brad, a bored and bitter officer in the magic police, catches wind of an unmarked kid in town. Smelling a golden opportunity for a promotion, he's on the case. Back in the city, Mash, blissfully unaware of the panic he's causing, accidentally bumps into a drunk cop named Terry, smearing cream all over his uniform. When Terry starts yelling, Mash, ever the peacemaker, offers him a cream puff except it's half-eaten, which somehow only makes things worse. Things escalate when Terry demands compensation, so Mash just rips off his uniform and promises to wash it. Brad arrives before things get out of hand, but before he can do anything, Regro swoops in, grabs Mash, and hauls him home, apologizing profusely. Unbeknownst to them, Brad sends a magic bird to track them, sensing that Mash is more than just a simple troublemaker. Back at their house, Regro scolds Mash for going to the city, but Mash, genuinely apologetic, offers him cream puffs as a peace offering. Regro lets it slide, but punishes him with extra training. As Mash heads outside, Regro hurriedly opens the door for him, better than losing another one. But something is wrong. Regro realizes that the magic police know about Mash, and before he can warn him, Brad and his goons literally smash through the wall like a squad of low-budget action villains. Completely oblivious, Mash is happily humming a cream puff song on his way back home when he overhears Brad interrogating Regro. The officer is in full villain monologue mode, rambling about how the unmarked have no right to live. Regro, unwilling to betray Mash, refuses to say anything, even as Brad starts beating him. Just as things escalate, Mash bursts through the door and one punches a cop straight through the wall. Terry steps up next, but Mash, still on a roll, rips off his uniform again before slapping him unconscious. Regro is stunned. Mash had a chance to escape, so why didn't he? The answer is simple: because they are family. Brad laughs. What's a guy with no magic going to do? To prove his superiority, he fires off a massive spell, only for Mash to slap it away like it's nothing. Brad, now sweating, launches an even stronger attack, but Mash effortlessly swats it aside again. Just for fun, he starts juggling the magical blasts like volleyballs. The once cocky officer completely loses it. Desperate, Brad sets up a magical defense, thinking it'll stop any incoming attack. Mash, unfazed, casually picks up Regro's wand, chucks it like a javelin, and pierces straight through Brad's barrier, cutting his cheek. Realizing he can't beat Mash, Brad switches tactics. Instead of arresting him, he offers him a deal. There's a prestigious title given to the strongest student at the Magic Academy, the Divine Visionary. If Mash can enroll and win, society will have no choice but to accept him. Brad, of course, only cares about the power and money that come with sponsoring a Divine Visionary. But for Mash, it's a chance to live peacefully with Regro. And so, with no other choice, Mash accepts. Not for fame, not for status, but because, at the end of the day, he just wants one thing: to eat cream puffs in peace. Easton Magic Academy is the elite of the elite, a school that has produced some of the greatest magic users in history. but getting in, nearly impossible. The entrance exam is infamous, with an acceptance rate of less than 3%, and only those with exceptional magical abilities stand a chance. As this year's candidates gather for the exam, Claude Lucci, one of the examiners, observes the crowd. He spots nobles, prodigies, and the usual overachievers. Then he sees something that makes him do a double take. Mash Burndead, casually lifting weights in the middle of the magic exam venue. If that wasn't weird enough, Mash then starts doing an invisible chair exercise against a wall, completely ignoring the magic books and instead reading a fitness guide. Meanwhile, two very bad spies, Regro and Brad, are failing miserably at hiding. Claude takes one look at the whole situation and decides not to waste his time. The exam begins with a written test, but of course, it's not a normal test. The questions are alive, squirming and wriggling across the page. The students panic as they realize they need to use magic to dispel the enchantment and align the questions before they can even answer. Claude watches smugly, convinced that Mash is doomed. Mash, however, takes one look at his paper and says, "Stop moving." The questions ignore him. He crushes his feather pen in frustration and repeats, "Stop moving." This time, out of pure fear, the questions freeze in place. Mash hands in his perfectly formatted test while Claude stands there, utterly dumbfounded. The physical tests don't go much better for Claude's expectations. Mash makes a boulder float by lifting it with one finger and crosses water by sprinting over it. The more Mash succeeds, the more Claude looks like he's about to lose his mind. The final challenge is a maze filled with traps. Candidates have 30 minutes to reach the goal. As Mash enters, a girl named Lemon Irvine approaches and asks to team up. She claims it'll be more efficient, but as they progress, it becomes clear that she is an absolute disaster. She gets caught in every trap, attacked by imps, and constantly yells for Mash's help. Eventually, she betrays him, slapping magical cuffs on his arms and legs. Turns out Claude promised her a guaranteed pass if she kept Mash from finishing. But Mash, unfazed, simply breaks the cuffs with his bare hands and continues. Suddenly, a giant sphinx blocks Lemon's path, demanding an answer to a classic riddle. What walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, and 3 at night? When she runs out of time, the Sphinx prepares to attack. Accepting her punishment for betraying Mash, she closes her eyes until Mash punches the Sphinx in the face. His logic? That creature doesn't exist. Lemon is stunned. Instead of leaving her behind, Mash came back because, as he says, "If your reason was like mine, I'd feel bad." But with time running out, Lemon panics, convinced they won't make it. Claude is already celebrating Mash's failure when suddenly he hears a boom, then another, then the sound of walls crumbling. To his horror, Mash isn't solving the maze, he's punching straight through it. A perfect straight-line shortcut right to the finish. The other students scream that he's cheating, but before Claude can disqualify him, Lemon speaks up. She confesses that she was paid to sabotage Mash because her family is poor, and she was desperate. But Mash still saved her, and according to he asked her to marry him. Mash quickly corrects her, saying he offered her a piggyback ride because she was injured. Lemon insists that's basically the same thing. Furious, Claude declares he's failing both of them. Mash, completely unfazed, snaps Claude's wand in half with one hand. Before the situation escalates, Headmaster Wahlberg appears, silences the room, and announces that he'll be taking over the exam. The final test? A one-on-one interview. Wahlberg teleports Mash to a grand hall filled with professors and asks why he wants to attend Easton. Mash's answer is simple: "So I can live in peace with my family." Some professors dislike the answer, but Wahlberg moves on, questioning why Mash risked failing just to save Lemon. Mash responds that he would have regretted it if he hadn't. Wahlberg laughs, recognizing Mash as someone who acts first and thinks later. Then, as a final test, he asks if Mash would make the same decision if he were facing someone stronger. Before Mash can answer, Wahlberg unleashes a terrifying spell that transfers Regro's soul into a doll. If the doll is stabbed, Regro's soul will never return. Mash tries to punch the knife away, but it doesn't budge. His hand starts bleeding, yet he doesn't stop. Instead, he grabs the blade with his bare hands and holds it in place, betting that Wahlberg can't maintain the spell forever. Impressed, Wahlberg ends the test, explaining that power is neither good nor evil. It depends on how it's used. He believes Mash has the potential to protect the weak and uphold noblesse oblige. Mash, however, is still focused on the previous question. His answer? "If we fought, I'd just knock you out with my fists." The professors are horrified, but Wahlberg laughs and welcomes Mash into Easton Academy. The real madness begins when school officially starts. In the first lesson, students are supposed to learn Opti-R's magic to unlock doors. Mash instead rips the lock off with his bare hands, instantly angering the professor. Meanwhile, his soon-to-be roommate, Finn, is praying that he won't be stuck with someone weird. Unfortunately for him, when he arrives at his dorm, he finds Mash standing in the hallway, casually holding the door he accidentally ripped off its hinges. Mash cheerfully introduces himself and then introduces each of his muscles by name. Finn immediately regrets everything, hoping to keep his school life peaceful. Finn offers to answer any questions Mash has about the academy. Mash only has one. How do I become the divine visionary? Finn explains that he needs gets to collect gold coins, awarded based on academic performance. Mash, realizing that this is going to be brutal, hands Finn a cream puff. Finn sighs, takes it, and accepts his fate. Mash burned Ed's school life at Easton continues to be a complete disaster in the funniest way possible. The night before broom riding class, he asks Finn if he can borrow a broom because he, brought a burdock root instead. Finn is so baffled that Mash confused a vegetable for a flying tool that he doesn't even question it and just hands over a spare. The next day, the class begins with the teacher explaining that they need to channel magic into their broom and command it with the word fly. Easy for everyone else except Mash, whose broom just sits there, completely unimpressed. A student mocks him for slowing everyone down, so Mash does what any logical person would do, stomps the ground so hard that the broom bounces up into his hand, then commands it to fly. The student calls him a cheater because the broom clearly moved before the command, but Mash just shrugs. Then comes the real challenge, a broom race. The same smug student challenges Mash, betting that the loser has to obey the winner for the rest of their time at school. Mash agrees, and as the race starts, something incredible happens. It's over in an instant. Mash is already at the finish line before anyone else even moves. The teacher is losing her mind because Mash just set a new world record while the other students are stunned. Finn, who actually saw what happened, is even more shocked. Mash threw his broom, jumped after it, and used air resistance to slow down and land on it mid-air. The defeated student is furious, but before he can argue, Lloyd Cavil, a seemingly polite but obviously shady upperclassman, uses his magic to silence him and apologizes for the rudeness. Then, he turns to Mash, offering friendship. Mash mishears his name as Spud Cabbage, instantly annoying Lloyd, but he holds back his anger for now. Before things escalate, the teacher reminds them they're still in class, and Lloyd tells Mash to meet him after school. Spoiler, Mash forgets. Lloyd, however, does not. After school, he takes his frustrations out on his own friend, beating him up for failing to mess with Mash. Meanwhile, Mash is just chilling with Finn, asking who Lloyd even is. Finn explains that Lloyd is the son of a high-ranking Bureau of Magic official, meaning anyone who crosses him mysteriously gets expelled. Mash, of course, just casually eats a cream puff, completely unfazed. Lloyd, now fuming that Mash never showed up, decides to make his life miserable. The next day, Mash finds his textbook trashed. Lloyd shows up, acting all buddy-buddy, and asks why Mash stood him up. Mash, in complete honesty, says he was too busy making cream puffs. Lloyd, realizing Mash is a total airhead, tries a new approach, pretending to help him become the divine visionary. Mash immediately buys it, thinking this is his chance, and suddenly, he's doing everything Lloyd asks, carrying his bags, polishing his shoes, even giving him a massage. Meanwhile, Finn is trying so hard to warn him. By the time Mash finds another wrecked textbook, he finally asks Finn for help. Finn, feeling guilty, tries to avoid him, but Mash just sits next to him, thanks him for lending the broom, and hands him a cream puff, calling him a great friend. Eventually, Lloyd crosses the line. He orders Finn to burn Mash's clothes. Finn refuses, so Lloyd forces him to his knees with magic, making his head slam into the ground. When Mash stumbles upon the scene, Finn, bleeding and ashamed, finally confesses he was the one destroying Mash's books, too scared to defy Lloyd. He starts apologizing, but before he can finish, Lloyd smugly suggests they all go to dinner with his connections. Mash's response, he slams Lloyd's head into the ground. Finn freaks out, saying Mash is definitely getting expelled now, and Mash, finally processing what he's done, realizes, yeah, that might be bad. And then it gets worse. Vice Principal Farman Kregos shows up, smugly declaring that he saw everything and will hold a school conference to expel Mash and Finn. He lectures them about social status and power, practically relishing in their inevitable punishment. Mash listens, then knees Farman in the face. His reasoning? Farman didn't seem open to reason, so he couldn't help it. And since he already hit Lloyd, hitting one more person won't make a difference. Farman, furious, tries to cast a powerful spell, but before he can even finish, Mash slaps a handful of dirt onto his face, leaving him confused. Then, Mash digs a hole, picks Farman up, and starts burying him alive. Farman, half buried, screams that Mash won't get away with this. But Mash calmly points out that he can expel Mash whenever he wants, but Mash can also bury him whenever he wants. He continues piling dirt onto the vice principal as if this is totally normal behavior. Naturally, Mash is called to see Headmaster Wahlberg bygone. Mash assumes it's because he used the school kitchen without permission. Wahlberg informs him it's actually because he bodied Lloyd and buried the vice principal alive. The Bureau of Magic sent an expulsion notice, demanding Mash be kicked out immediately. But Wahlberg, disgusted by the corruption in the system, burns the expulsion letter right in front of Mash. He explains that the Divine Visionaries hold immense influence over the Bureau, and if Mash really wants to change things, he'll need to become one. That means gathering gold coins through schoolwork, exams, and competitions. As Wahlberg keeps explaining, Mash's brain short-circuits from too much information and he passes out. After he wakes up, Wahlberg simply tells him to collect coins, while he'll handle the Bureau. As Mash leaves, Wahlberg sighs, knowing knowing Mash will have more trouble ahead, but something tells him this kid will be just fine. Back at school, Mash's reputation skyrockets. Students respect him now, and one of them, Tom Knowles, asks him to represent their dorm in an upcoming duelo match. Girls swoon over Tom, last year's MVP, but Mash has one problem: he has no clue what duelo is. Tom excitedly explains it's the #1 sport in the magic realm, and Mash immediately tries to decline, but Tom completely ignores him. Mash realizes that Tom is somehow even denser than he is, and before he knows it, he's stuck in the game. The next day, the match begins, and there's an immediate problem. Mash still can't ride a broom. As he stands there, completely still, the audience starts booing, assuming he's goofing off. Objects start flying at him. Mash just sighs, realizing once again this is going to be rough. That's the end of the recap. Let us know if you want part 2 by leaving a comment in the comment section down below. Also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel to avoid being virgin forever. See you guys in the next video.